3, 2, 1. All right. All right. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. My name is Otis Landerholm, and I'm really grateful to be here with each of you. My topic for today is answering the question, will I be detained at my upcoming hearing? Okay. And so thank you for being here and welcome to the Empowered Immigrant Live. It's an honor to be here with you. Remember that the Empowered Immigrant Live is here to train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. All right? Today our theme is, will I be detained at my upcoming hearing? And my question for everybody is, hey, do you want to get a green card? Do you want to apply for asylum? Do you want to apply for a U visa? Do you want to figure out what is the best strategy? What is the best option? What is the best way to up-level your life by getting through this and getting over this immigration situation? Because if so, go for it. And I'd love to help you with that. My firm is on a mission to win 10,000 immigration cases in the next 10 years. We'd love for your case to be one of them. All right? So thanks everyone for being here, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or TikTok. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate each of you. My name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. And thanks for tuning in today for another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. All right. It's April of 2025. Trump has just been back in the White House for 3 months, and we've had a lot of change. All right, the Laken Riley Act was signed into law. ICE is getting going with its mass deportation efforts. The Senate and the House have approved Trump's budget for deportations. The new registration requirement is happening. All right, it was implemented and has been in effect since the 11th of April. All right. They're talking about a new travel ban. There's still no new active travel ban, but they're still discussing it. It's probably going to come out any day. They're moving forward with deporting certain people with supposed alleged gang ties pursuant to the Alien Enemies Act. No due process at all. They're just deporting them. There's a lot of changes, a lot of crazy things are happening, and thank you all for tuning in, and I'd love to answer any questions that you have as we're going through and as we're talking about today's topic. My office is here to support folks. We're here to help. We'd love to help. Okay? So now the question. I was in a consultation yesterday, and my client was concerned and asked this question. Okay, so is ICE going to be at this next hearing, and are they going to detain me at my next hearing in immigration court? Right? And let me tell you, so for people that have an upcoming hearing, you're in a better situation than many people. All right, many people have lost their case already. Many people have a deportation order issued against them already. All right, many people are subject to what's called expedited removal, which means that they're not even eligible for a hearing. Okay, and so it's like, when does a person have the most risk of ICE picking them up at a hearing or a check-in? In my experience, 3 situations. You're at most risk of being detained in 3 situations. 1, if you have a criminal record. All right, if you've been arrested, if you've been convicted, if you have certain criminal records, that increases the risk. All right. Two is if you've already lost your immigration case, if there's already an order signed against you of deportation, you're at a higher risk. And third is if you're subject to what we call expedited removal. For example, because you entered unlawfully within the last 2 years, or you entered without a valid visa within the last 2 years. Okay? Those are the three situations in my experience that your risks go up. Otherwise, in my opinion and in my experience, the chance of a person getting detained is low. Okay? It's low. And what do you do if someone does get detained? Well, we represent them in detained immigration court, and we ask the detained judge for a bond to allow the person to be released so that they can fight their case out of immigration custody. And bond is easier if a person has never been arrested, if a person doesn't have a criminal record, if they're not a danger to the community, right? Bond is easier if you don't have a deportation order, aren't subject to expedited removal, and if you don't have any of these situations, which is part of the reason why the risk in those situations, is if the risk is less if you don't have any of those things. Okay? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Really, anybody that's in that situation, anybody that's going to a hearing in the future, you want to go with representation. You want to get advice about, okay, what's our game plan, right? You want to strategize it to maximize your chances of success. And that's the reality. So if people are not in those situations, no criminal history, you've been here more than 2 years, right? And you've never been deported in the past, does that mean you're 100% in the clear? Not 100%. It's not guaranteeable. Not in this administration. Yesterday, a man, you may have seen this in the news, yesterday, Mohsen Madawi was detained at his citizenship interview. Has a green card, went to a citizenship interview, hoping to become a new U.S. citizen, and instead of granting his case, they detained him and put him into deportation proceedings. Why? Because he was pro-Palestinian protester at Columbia University in New York. It's crazy, all right? And so it's like, I hate to say it, but be extra cautious if you're Muslim. Be extra cautious if you've been politically active. Be extra cautious if you've been outspoken against the policies of the Trump administration. It makes me wonder, man, if I were out there with my political beliefs applying to become a new U.S. citizen, maybe they would deny me too. All right? Because my beliefs are very much against what the current political administration is doing. And that's the reality. All right? That's the reality. That's the world we're in. Okay? And as I mentioned, if anybody ever is detained by ICE, and if you don't have a removal order, right, then the first step is to fight for a bond to get you out of there so that you can keep fighting your case outside. And that's right. That's the way it is. Okay? The best advice always is don't go to a hearing by yourself. Go with a lawyer. Go prepared. And that's really it. That's really it. That's what I wanted to share today. And so let me know what questions are out there. All right? I know that there's a lot of questions, and so feel free to ask me them. I'll do my best to address them as we go here. So tumbleweeds are real. Hello, Mr. Landerholm. Nice to see you again. Nice to see you as well. All right? Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you. All right? Maria Lacerda. Hello. Good morning. Any changes on the U visa? Thanks. Okay. So not really. All right? Not really. The only thing that has changed sort of about U visa processing is the NTA memo. All right? The NTA memo that was issued at the end of February basically says that if a U visa gets denied, they'll issue an NTA, a notice to appear, to send people with denied U visas to immigration court proceedings. And that was not the policy in the past. All right, and so that's the only sort of, it hasn't really changed who's eligible for U visas or not. It just changes the process, and it increases the risks slightly for folks who have applied for U visas. So you want to make sure your U visa was well done. All right. Let's see, Pink Cotton Candy 20. All right, nice name, and thank you for being here. You say, any updates on the N-400 naturalization for an 18-year-old? Parents naturalized 2 weeks before you were 18. Well, you're in an interesting situation. So if you had a green card, right? If you had a green card and your parents naturalized before you turned 18, you might not need to do an N-400. You might have derived citizenship. So you might not need to do this. My best advice for you, and thank you for being here and thank you for asking it, you might already be a U.S. citizen. You may have derived your citizenship legally through your parents. So I recommend that you talk it through with a lawyer. You don't want to go through an N-400 process if you don't need to. It'll be denied anyway. All right? You might already be a U.S. citizen. You might be eligible to just straight up apply for your U.S. passport or apply for a preliminary step that we call the N-600, which is requesting straight up just for a certificate showing that you are already a U.S. citizen. Okay? If you want help with that situation, feel free to give us a call. We could definitely do a consult with you and discuss that strategy because you might not need an N-400. Okay. So Salas Queen, 1987, you say, what is the most time an I-539 and an I-765 take to be approved through the U visa submitted in October of 2024? I can't answer that. I can't answer that. I'm sorry. The I-539 request to extend your visa, was it submitted before your non-immigrant visa status went out of status? The I-539 can take a year or so, which is frustrating because your non-immigrant status will almost always expire before the I-539 gets approved. Your I-765, based on a U visa, if it really is based on the U visa, you have to wait for a bona fide determination to be approved on your U visa, which can take 3 or 4 years, okay? If they're still granting bona fide determinations in 3 or 4 years. And that's an interesting question that we will have to wait and see. And so how long can they take? What is the most time? Yeah, I'd say that 3 or 4 years. All right? So, yeah. All right, Isabel Montiel, 876. You say, a green card holder to apply for U.S. citizenship in 3 years. Anything we should be careful with? Well, thank you for asking this, Isabel. So, anything to be careful with. Don't get arrested. Obey all laws. If you're traveling outside the U.S., don't travel outside the U.S. for more than 180 days. All right? If you are involved in political activity, be mindful of that. All right? That can cause an issue under the current administration. It has never caused an issue in any administration in the past, to my knowledge at least, right? Since I've been practicing immigration law for the last 15 years, that has never been an issue. But under the current administration, protesting against the government is becoming an issue for citizenship cases. So aside from those things, you should be okay. If you're applying under the 3-year rule because you're living in marital union with a U.S. citizen, keep documentation about your marriage as well. All right, if you got your green card through marriage, keep documentation about your marriage. Okay, tumbleweeds are real. You say, have you seen many family petitions for parents of citizens being denied lately? I don't know. Not an abnormal amount. We've seen pushback on petitions. We've been getting a lot of notices of intent to deny. We call them NOIDs. And we've been getting a lot of RFEs on cases, which is a sign, right? It's a sign that the government is not willing to just approve a case that was otherwise approvable in the past. They're asking for more evidence. They're pushing back. They're making it harder to get what used to be an easy case approved. All right? Now, that's also, we are also winning cases still. We won 3 cases just yesterday. So cases are still getting approved out there. All right? But I think we also lost a case yesterday. And so it's like, yeah, we're getting pushback on cases, and where we're getting denials, we're having to appeal. All right? And where we can do motions to reopen and other strategies to keep the case going and to keep the fight going. Sometimes it's like, yeah, they're going to push back at each step of the way, which means we've got to be ready to persist. All right? And that's sometimes what these cases are requiring. All right, Luis Juarez. I've been waiting since September of 2022 for an I-485 marriage to a USC wife. Is that normal, or what can I do? September of 2022, yeah, I think you're outside of normal processing times, unless there is any inadmissibility ground that you've applied for a waiver for, because waivers take a long time. All right? And so if it's a normal case and there's no waiver included and no waiver needed, right, then you should start the inquiry process, and you could push the government to try to issue a decision if you want to do that. Next week, I'm going to an adjustment of status interview through a marriage that's been pending since 2018. All right? And this week, my office has won cases that we filed just 5 months ago. And so it's like, so there's a wide range. There's a wide range. And the cases that are taking longer have some complications regarding them. All right? And in my office, we love winning complex cases. We have a lot of complex cases. All right? And so some of those complex cases take a long time. But it doesn't mean you can't win them. It just means you're going to expect some challenge as you're making kind of nuanced legal arguments in a case. Okay? All right, Salas Queen, let's see. Oh yeah, I answered that one already. Great. Thanks for being here. Thanks for asking your question. Let's see. Jay, you say, I have a I-751 and an N-400 interview tomorrow. Anything I should be worried about? Is the I-751 strict? Okay, so you have an I-751 and an N-400 interview tomorrow. So awesome. All right, that's awesome. I hope that you go in with your attorney. The best advice is review everything in your forms. All right, both the I-751 form and the N-400 form. Make sure that everything's accurate. Make sure everything is, you're ready to update anything that's changed in your forms. Make sure you're clear about your relationship. All right, have your spouse go with you, right? They can, even if they don't interview the spouse, they typically will interview the spouse or have the spouse go in you on an I-751 interview, but they typically don't need your spouse in an N-400 interview. So look at your interview notice, and it might be wise to have your spouse go with you at least to wait in the waiting room. All right? And is the I-751 strict? I mean, the I-751 can be very, very strict if there's any inkling that there's quote-unquote marriage fraud. In an I-751 interview, they can separate spouses, they can grill both spouses, they can ask who sleeps on what side of the bed and what color is your spouse's toothbrush, and I mean, they can ask all kinds of things. And if you have good evidence, like if you have children together, if you've been together a long time, if you have good evidence of your marriage and you're still together and it's like clearly, obviously a good faith marriage, not just for immigration purposes, then chances are you're going to be okay. Okay? Chances are you're going to win both. I actually love this strategy where you do the I-751 and the N-400 at the same time. You don't do them right at the same time, but you file the I-751 first, and then if a year goes by and if you're still living in marital union with your U.S. citizen spouse, you file the N-400 too, and then often we see both of those applications approved on the same day. And so I hope that that happens in your situation, Jay, and hopefully it happens tomorrow. Report back, in the future. Let us know how it goes. Okay? All right, very good. So Afton Trotter, you say, my husband, permanent resident for 2+ years. He's Muslim, Arab, pro-Palestine, not a high profile. He's been out of the U.S. since December. Is it too risky to re-enter the U.S.? I mean, it's too risky not to, right? It's too risky not to. So December, the best advice is always come back before 180 days, right? I don't know where your husband is from, but man, if he wants to keep his green card, he should come back into the U.S. All right? That's my best advice. I would recommend coming in, like having his flight land in San Francisco, having his flight land, on the West Coast. The West Coast is the best coast. I'm biased. That's my opinion. It's a better place to enter the United States. Why? Because we're in the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit immigration laws are better laws. All right? Every circuit in the country interprets laws slightly differently. And there's a lot of wisdom in coming in on the West Coast, L.A., San Francisco, Seattle, right? It's typically a better strategy than flying into Dallas, Texas, or into Houston or Atlanta, all right, in my opinion. All right, and I wish him the very best of luck, all right? Let's see, Erica Alife, full of blessing. All right, thank you for being here. What is the process of naturalization for a person with a cognitive disability that receives Social Security disability? So thank you for asking this question. So depending, if the situation is that the individual applying for naturalization cannot learn the questions because of their cognitive disability, or if the situation is the person cannot speak basic English because of the cognitive disability, there's a special form. We call it the N648, and they have to do it, and it's not an easy form. I mean, if they have a diagnosed cognitive disability where they cannot learn the questions and they have a doctor that explains why their cognitive disability makes it impossible for them to learn the naturalization questions, then okay, right? But it's up to the immigration officer to approve or to deny the N648, all right? And so we've seen pushback on the N648 forms, and so sometimes they get approved, sometimes they get denied. But you can certainly try it, right? So when you apply for your N400, also apply for the N648. They'll be adjudicated at the same time, right? And I should say that carefully. They'll be pending at the same time. The N648 will actually be adjudicated before your N400 is adjudicated, but they'll be there by the officer, in front of the officer on the day of your interview. Okay? So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Steve Baca, if you are 60 to be a citizen, let me know what your question is there. I'm not sure what your question is there, but thank you for being here. Maybe there's more to it that I missed in our chat here. Anyway, Steve, thank you for asking that. Let me know what your question is about that. All right, tumbleweeds are real. Thank you. My daughter will turn 21 in 4 months. Hey, congratulations. All right, that's great. When your daughter turns 21, they can file a petition for their parents, so that's great. Jose Sabillon, Hola, bendiciones, abogado. Yo entré por la frontera, pero tengo una I-130 aprobada. Apliqué por el parole in place. Tengo que registrarme. Gracias, abogado. All right. So, whether or not I need to register, this is a great question. I'm going to do a whole episode on this question because we're going to have there's going to be more people that want to know this. So, the registration requirement, right? The registration requirement is live, all right? It went live on April 11th, okay? And so some people will need to register. If you have an I-130 pending, that it does not count as registration. And so for folks in that situation, according to the registration requirement, yes, you need to register. I recommend that each person has a consultation with their lawyer and talk through, do I need to register, and what are the risks and what are the benefits? What are the pros and what are the cons? All right? A lawyer can't advise a person not to register, right? But a lawyer certainly can advise somebody about what are the risks, what are the benefits, what does this mean, so that people can think this through, okay? The registration requirement is still being challenged. It is possibly subject to being unconstitutional by violating a person's Fifth Amendment right to not self-incriminate, all right? And so we're going to see what happens about the registration requirement, but it is live right now. So the answer to your question, Jose, is that having an I-130 pending is not enough, all right? And so you might still need to register pursuant to the registration requirement. I'm not formally advising that you do that. To do that, I would recommend having a consultation. Okay? All right. Alex M. My mom recently received her permanent green card. How long is the process for my father to adjust? My mom received her green card. How long is the process for my father to adjust? So, Alex, thank you for asking this question. I don't know if your father's eligible to adjust. All right? And so, is your father currently in immigration status? Did he enter on a visa, and is his visa still current? Right? Because otherwise, he's not eligible to adjust through a spouse who's a permanent resident. The spouse needs to become a citizen first, and the father needs to have entered, right, with a visa or with a permit in order for that adjustment to ever happen. All right? If that doesn't work because of your father's situation, then you might need to file for consular processing, not do it as an adjustment, do it as a consular case, and do it potentially with a waiver if there's any inadmissibility. Okay? So, Alex, thank you for asking your question, but unless your father is in valid current immigration status, he won't be eligible to adjust status through your mom. So you'll need to do something else. Either apply for citizenship first but I mean, if he is in valid immigration status, then great, file the petition. It'll take multiple years for the petition to become current and then file his adjustment, all right? And in the meantime, he's got to be maintaining immigration status at each step of the way, all right? I'd love to have my team help you out. We're here to help. We'd love to help. Feel free to give us a call and we can talk that through if that would be of benefit to you and your parents. All right, so Menta K, any problem? And first of all, everybody, thank you for tuning in. All right, if you're tuning in right now, thank you so much for being here. My name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream. And thank you for tuning in. You're joining me right now live on our weekly show, The Empowered Immigrant Live, and thank you so much for being here. All right. So Menta K, I see your question, and I'll probably take 7 more questions here, just looking at the time. So Menta K, you say, any problem with parents coming in from India with a visa that expires while they're here? Should they renew or prior to visiting? Any problem with parents coming in from India with a visa that expires while they're here, yeah, I think that they probably won't be allowed in. Like they typically have to have a passport and a visa that's valid for at least 6 months, or they could have problems at the airport, right? And so just that, right? You got to be mindful of that. Or if the parents are coming in and if the visa expires, if they get on the plane tomorrow and they end up going through customs and customs sees that, they might just say, okay, we're approving their stay up to the date that their visa expires, right? So yeah, you want to be mindful of that. It might be wise for them to reapply for the visa renewal, right? Let's see. Okay, Eric Ali, a life full of blessing. I see it. All right, all right. So what if she had a cognitive disability diagnosed in 1989? Yeah, it doesn't matter that the diagnosis. It doesn't matter that the diagnosis happened so long ago. What matters is that the doctor would sign and fill out and demonstrate her ineligibility to do all the naturalization questions today, right? And so it's just the N648 form that I was discussing earlier, and yeah, it should be doable, right? Okay, so let's see. Danny Noir 899. You say, I am a naturalized citizen. Is it still safe to travel internationally? Yes. All right. Yes, it is. You're a naturalized citizen, so great, and have a great trip, and come back whenever you're ready. You don't have any limits in terms of when you're eligible to come back. The only risk to naturalized citizens is if they could possibly denaturalize you, and that is if you got your naturalization through fraud, like if you lied about your immigration status to get and to become a citizen. But that's a serious process, right? They would have to file a complaint in federal court and have a bunch of evidence. If that's not your situation, then don't worry about it. Go have a safe trip, have fun, and we'll see you. Let us know when you come back in. All right? KKKKK. You got your I-130 approved. You did fingerprints for PIP. Do I still need to register with USCIS? No, if you've done parole in place and you have your fingerprints done already, you're already registered. You don't need to worry about it. Okay? Sassy Fashi is a federal misdemeanor. It's a federal misdemeanor if I don't register? Question. Can they deny status later if I don't register? Question mark. These are great questions, all right? They are saying that it's a misdemeanor, all right? So that's the risk of not registering. And there is the possibility of risk that they might deny a waiver or deny a discretionary application for someone's failure to register. And so those are some of the risks involved, right? Those are some of the risks involved. Some of the other risks involved is you're putting your name in the government's database, right? So it makes it easier. It's an enforcement mechanism. So it makes it easier for the government to locate a person and to initiate deportation proceedings against a person. And so there's that risk also. And so the best advice always is to talk it through, right? And to do a consultation, really discuss it and see, hey, in your situation, is there maybe a different way? Is there maybe something else you could apply for so that you don't have to do it necessarily through the registration process, but instead you can apply for some kind of benefit to fix your situation? That's what my office is here to do, all right? Let's see, Bickles with Angeline. Thank you for being here. Are they still issuing Social Security numbers? It depends on the situation, all right? My office has received Social Security numbers just yesterday with cases that we won. And so, yes, they are still issuing Social Security numbers, but you got to check your situation. There's also news out there that they're going to be canceling people's Social Security numbers when they don't have legal status, right? So when, for example, a person had a Social Security number because they had a pending case, but now that case has been denied and things like that, like there are situations where they will cancel Social Security numbers, and we're going to find out more about that. There's just been rumors, as far as I'm concerned, about what's happening with Social Security. All right? Let's see here. Jesus is Lord. Any changes on VAWA from 2022 or the I-485? Good question. All right. Good question. I mean, there's not any specific changes. Not any specific changes to VAWA. I think the only thing similar to the U visa is the NTA memo, right, which says that if they deny even cases for VAWA, even cases for U visas, they will NTA folks that have a denied case, which means that you want to make sure that that case is as good as possible, is as professional as possible, as clean as possible, so that you get that case approved. All right? But otherwise, there's no change per se to VAWA law or to U visa law. All right, but thank you for asking that question. All right, my last question of the day, folks. My last question is from Let's Do It. All right, let's do it at no risk, it says. You said, okay, they denied my N-400 for misrepresentation on my green card application. Is there any, what does it say? Is there any way I can be adjusted with my family members who live in the USA? I have sisters and brothers here in the USA. This is a great question, and I'm sorry that this happened, all right? My best advice is to really have a full consultation. You probably can't just adjust through your brothers and sisters unless they filed petitions for you years ago, because sibling petitions take 20 years. They take forever, all right? But just because the government is saying there was a misrepresentation on your green card doesn't mean that a judge will agree, right? Just because the government's saying that there's a misrepresentation on your original green card application doesn't mean that you need a new adjustment of status. You might be eligible for what's called a 237A1H waiver in immigration court, which is a fraud waiver in immigration court. Like, there might be other ways to fix your situation that don't even depend on your sisters and brothers here in the U.S. All right? So my best advice is really talking that through. Let's do a consultation. Let's really think about it. And don't just agree with the government's position. Fight back about it, right? That's what a lot of these cases are going to require. So, okay. All right, that's all the time that I have for today. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate each of you. I'm seeing some other questions here on TikTok, especially. I see some other questions on here. All right, Coyolita, can you get a bond with a DWI? Sometimes. It depends on the judge. Cirlene Nunez, I'm waiting for a T visa. Already fingerprinted. Do I need to register? If you've already been fingerprinted, you do not. Okay, you're already registered, so don't worry about it. All right. That's all the time that I got for today. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. All right? My empowerment tip for today is just what I've been saying throughout our episode. Sometimes you got to persist. If you want to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve in your life, all right, whether financially or whether it's through health or whether it's through your immigration case, you're going to face obstacles. And right now we're facing a lot of obstacles. All right? You got to persist. You got to keep going. You got to pursue it. All right? Don't back off just because there's an obstacle that confronts you. Push through it. And I really encourage each of you to take that on in whatever area of your life that you see you're facing obstacles. Hey, push through it. Go for what you want for your life. I believe in you. I hope you believe in yourself. All right? Thank you so much for being here. I'm Otis Landerholm, Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time on our next episode of The Empowered Immigrant Live. Thanks a lot. Make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.